Right, okay. Call this meeting, this council meeting, it's Monday, June 15th, 2026 at 5 p.m. We are in council chambers sitting as council. We'll call this meeting to order. Please stand. Please be seated.
We will begin this meeting of council by acknowledging that we're meeting on Indigenous land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. Long before today, as we gather here, there have been Indigenous people who have been the stewards of this place. In particular, we acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Wendat, and Haudenosaunee people.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crapper. That takes item number 4, which is the adoption of the agenda. It's moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper, that the agenda of the meeting of council held on June 15th, 2026 be adopted as presented. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Item number 5 is any declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest tonight. Seeing none takes us to item number 6, which is the minutes. It's moved by Councillor Crapper, seconded by Councillor Card, the minutes of the May 19th, 2026 council and the June 2nd, 2026 committee of the whole meetings be received and adopted. Any errors or omissions? Call the question then. All in favor? And that's carried. Alrighty, so this takes us to item number 7 on the agenda, which is the Volunteer Recognition Award. This is something that we began last year, and we are so happy to present it tonight to, is it Micheline?
Yes.
Micheline Needham, for her 10 years of volunteer work with North Leeds Soccer Association. So we'll stand together. I'm going to read actually what your husband put in for the nomination, which is very, very nice. And Susan is a reporter with the newspaper, so she'll be taking a photo if that's all right with you. So as the story goes, the family wanted to recognize Michelle Needham for her 10+ years of volunteer work with North Leeds Soccer Association. Micheline has run the Westport soccer for 12 years and has also worked for the North Leeds PFC soccer teams as well, where she coaches. And you told us that you're coaching the under 15 girls right now?
15 and under.
15 and under. In your spare time, you're a vice president of North Leeds Soccer, as well as a disciplinarian. I giggled when I read that, like that's such low-hanging fruit. Purpose of the meeting, I won't ask. You also have done a lot of fundraising to send the team of U18 girls to Sweden in 2024. You do a lot for children in the community, and you are working year-round for soccer. And we talked a little bit before the meeting on how important that is to council when your name came forward, that you're a role model in the village. You give up your spare time to make sure that the girls have good, organized, professional soccer, and at the same time be a tremendous role model for them. So our scroll says, the Volunteer Appreciation Award is to Micheline Needham, honoring your unwavering commitment to youth soccer through leadership, coaching, fundraising, and community service. So on behalf of Council of the Village of Westport, we commend you for your continued commitment and service. Congratulations. Beautiful. There you go, and there's our photo. Great, have you got one? Great, remember to say a few words, like you want to encourage girls everywhere to play soccer.
Yeah, no, like I said, we've now upped our competitive teams to 5 this year. We have 3 female teams and 2 male teams. Just encourage kids to come out
Yeah.
of all ages, and you want a team, we'll make a team.
Oh, well, congratulations, thank you.
you.
Thank you to the family for coming. That was very special for us to have you all here, and thank you for the nomination. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
You can stay for the next 3 hours for our meeting.
I would, but I got a soccer game.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Bye
guys.
now.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care. Nice work.
Bye now. All right, that'll take us to item number 8. And that is, so a reminder to people in the public watching. The Village of Westport is a 2-meeting discipline. The first meeting we call Committee of the Whole, and that is where, generally speaking, all the information comes to us through staff reports. We debate, and more often than not, we're satisfied at the end of the evening that we recommend that the item go to council for support. If we're not satisfied at that time, then we ask staff to bring back more reports, and generally then that's the committee of the whole the next meeting. All that to say, for the public watching, these discussions tonight might be very tight because we've already had the debate. I encourage you to go back to probably the 2nd of June on the Village of Westport YouTube site, and you can get any background information that you need. So rather than filling in all the blanks, we've had our debate, and now this is the decision-making meeting when we sit as council. So 8.1 is a public works report in regards to the EV charger costs. And the motion is from Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper, that council direct staff to defer any process changes related to the EV charge station until after the rate study is completed. Anybody want to weigh in? Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor? And that is carried. 8.2 is server migration project out of administration. And the motion is from Councillor Crapper, seconded by Councillor Card, that council approve the server migration project work to be done by the village's existing IT service provider, OnServe, in the amount of $32,770 plus HST. Council, are you voting or you want?
No, just a comment.
You go ahead then with the comment.
I was approached by somebody about this, and I asked them to go back and do a little bit of research about numbers of organizations that have shifted to cloud-based servers. And indeed, it is, the only real option, and it's less risky than having servers and less expensive in the long term than having, renewed new servers on site. This person, after doing their own research, left impressed that that was the route we were taking, and it wasn't what they expected to learn, so.
So I had a interesting meeting earlier this week just on that subject. And it's a professor from University of Waterloo. And the flag is that, I don't know, do you want me to go down this path? The flag is that the data is what we own as Canadians, but when we put it in the clouds owned by Americans, they have access to our data. And I feel compelled, having had a 2-hour presentation the other night, to share that with you. Now, I don't think the data that we have in our our servers, the Americans are gonna take and do something with it, but I just feel I have a duty to raise the flag. That even when it's a company, cloud company X Canada, it's still an American company. And so all of the mayors attending the same workshop I did said that we would share the concerns. Because if you don't own your data, that's the tangible that you own. So I feel that I have fulfilled my obligation. It's quite scary in the bigger scheme of things, not scary for the village of Westport spending $32,000 so that we have backup for our data. Is that all right, CAO?
Sure.
Okay, I brought it around. I didn't ask you to do anything crazy. Go ahead.
Now, I thought, and maybe I'm confusing it with the website conversation. I guess I am, because we had a conversation where all the data was going to be stored in on Canadian servers. Was that the website?
No, it says,
So then it's just the company, in terms of data sovereignty, which is what we were talking about and is the concern. My understanding at the time was that we were comfortable that the data would be stored in Canada.
Mhm.
So it isn't an issue in our case here. Is that accurate? Through you?
Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, thank you through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I did confirm with Mary Beth that evening that while it's owned by an American company, the offices, staff, the data centers, the servers, everything is stored in Canada. So
Mhm.
just confirm that with her.
You say
Everything's subject to the what they call the Cloud Act for access as well, so same.
it's Microsoft that owns the cloud.
Yeah.
Very.
So the issue then would be accessibility. I know,
The issue is ownership of data.
yeah, so, but accessibility, I mean, if we own it, I mean, that's like saying, you know, I own my car, but somebody stole it. Can somebody else
Not a
access
problem.
it?
No.
Okay.
No. This is a bigger picture. This is 1,000-foot discussion, not our server in the cloud.
I'm talking about the data, not
I am too.
because my impression of the way things are going in the US right now, just about anything's accessible to anybody.
Yeah, no. The security isn't the issue. It's the ownership of it.
Okay, so
That's all. Security isn't an issue. All right, I'm gonna call the question. Are you biting your tongue? I can see it. I can see. I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Fulfilled my duty. All right, 2026 meeting schedule amendment, moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper. The council approved the following changes to the 2026 meeting schedule. July 7th, committee of the whole, moved to July 14th. July 21st, council moved to July 28th. I want to take a moment, because this one's not mine, but you have had many requests to change or adjust your schedule over the last 2 years, and I'm winding up AMO president in August. I don't have any more changes to request, but I didn't want to look each of you in the eye and thank you for doing it so pleasantly. I've never heard any pushback. Not every council I've had would have been as easy to work with. So thank you for making that part of my professional life so much easier. Someone's getting married in the morning and we have to adjust a few things here. So
Quickly, just that to ensure that we give community enough advance notice, because I don't feel that there was enough advance notice for tonight's meeting.
oh, well, this is being said out loud here and it'll be on the website.
Yeah,
Okay. Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Okay, doke, staff reports, 9.1. Novatech is waiting there. This is to give us we have the report on the zoning bylaw review, the open house that I'm sure Steve Pence hosted on our behalf. Arjan may have been there as well. Hi, Steve. Hello, Arjan.
Good afternoon.
Miranda.
I just can't see who else is there. It's in the dark.
Miranda.
Oh, who?
Miranda.
Miranda, you're almost in the dark, Miranda, but welcome. That's okay. You don't need to do anything different. I just couldn't hardly see where you were. Steve has a bright light on. Okay, so how did it go? We'll turn this over to you, Steve. You've got a bit of a presentation. We've read your report, it was in the package. So did you want to give us an update or something.
Yeah, I'm going to thank you for that. And again, we're happy to be here tonight to present to you a few details of the open house and to answer any questions that might follow from that. Um, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I was not personally at that open house. Arjan and Miranda attended that and handled it themselves. So I'm going to turn this over to Arjan and or Miranda to provide the details and lead any response to the questions that you might have.
Okay, yay team, Arjan and Miranda, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I'll start it and council members will have our report already that kind of goes over this in more detail, but we had our meeting May 26th. This was our first statutory open house and the second open house that we have done to solicit feedback from members of the public. The previous one being last year in December. We had about 15 to 20 people attend, about 2 hours time window from 6 p.m. To 8 p.m. We had a lot of people who came right at 6 p.m. And generally stayed for a little bit. People trickled in and out, but a lot of people stayed for a good chunk of time. And around about 7:30 is kind of when people left. So we had some presentation boards where we had the OP up, the zoning, the draft zoning, and some sticky notes just to kind of facilitate discussion. We did have a lot of interesting discussions with people. Some of the themes that came up were things like shipping containers. There was also comments that we received about senior care and living arrangements for seniors. And then there were also conversations that were had about what is being done for sort of environmental preservation and the preservation of the waterfront and green buffers to the waterfront. And so we kind of digested a lot of those comments and provided it in a summary form in the memo that we attached to this. And then in addition to that, the bylaw was circulated publicly and to agencies. And thus far, we've received, written comments from people, from about 5 people, 4 people. Like written comments on the bylaw from individuals, and then also from the RVCA, we received agency comments from them, of obviously a more technical nature. And so all of those comments have also been summarized in our table as well. And then in terms of what we're looking to do at this meeting, we're looking to get direction from council on, what our proposed action items are in response to the comments that we received. Some of those items are things that we would definitely like some council direction on, and then once we get that direction, we would make any sort of corresponding changes as a response to that in advance and circulate another draft with the aim of having a public meeting in late July. So that's kind of all my comments. I don't know if I missed anything, Miranda or Steve. But yeah.
So were you planning on running us through a PowerPoint so we could look at each point together?
So we don't have a PowerPoint, but we do have the memo itself, and we can certainly kind of go through that together as well. And that memo has basically a spreadsheet at the end of it. And that spreadsheet has all the comments kind of in a summary fashion that we received, and then also the responses that we've proposed to it, and then those responses, particularly the ones that we would want or that we're seeking council direction on, are probably the ones that we would have for discussion.
Okay, I'm gonna look at council. Did you, you've read it? Would you like to, even if there's no comment, we look at, the first item, nobody's got a comment, we move on to the next one, so we don't miss anything?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Do you have time to do that tonight, Miranda and Darjan, or do we need to pick another day?
I think we have time for that tonight. Yeah.
Okay, we probably won't get bogged down, but if the goal is then based on our direction, we would get another draft. I'd like to make sure that we're all on the same page as a council. We're running out of months in this term, so I think it's important that we get this done. So if that works for you, I might call the titles out and then I'll ask council if they've got any questions for you. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we'll do it that way. And if there's no comment, then we'll just go on to the next category. I'm getting head nodding from my council, so that's where we're gonna start. And if I correct, I'm on page 19.
Yes.
And it starts with section 4.9. That's the same as what you've got online?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first area is the shipping containers as storage containers. You've seen the response from the planners. Any comments?
So I just wanted to clarify in terms of additional flexibility. So based on the comments that were received during the actual open house, the additional flexibility that we're looking for is still, we're still going to be able to address the concerns of the citizens with the zoning bylaw amendment and or a special bylaw. What is the recommendation?
Go ahead, Darshan. Or Miranda, whoever.
Yeah, so just to understand the question, I guess, is the question, Councillor Aragona, whether whether we're recommending a zoning amendment or whether there's a specific bylaw to deal specifically with the shipping containers? Is that the question that's being asked?
Yes, my apologies. I didn't phrase it correctly, but that's what I'm looking for. Are you recommending that we continue with the original proposal of handling shipping containers through zoning bylaw amendments? Or are you recommending that we address this with a standard bylaw dealing specifically with shipping containers?
Go ahead, Darshan.
Yeah, so I think what we'd be recommending is essentially as it is now, because we brought direction forward to add in sort of, new language that would allow that flexibility, and then we took that. So as it is today, if this bylaw were passed as it is today, somebody could bring a zoning bylaw amendment if they wanted to have that additional flexibility, and we could decide that on a case-by-case basis. In the future, it would be, I guess, at the discretion of council as to whether they would prefer to amend this zoning bylaw once it gets passed, or if it gets passed as it is, whether they'd like to amend this zoning bylaw to add in those flexible provisions, and that would have given council time to, see what kind of applications are coming in and how do we want to change it to address the kinds of applications coming in, and whether we want to actually change the bylaw, the wording of the bylaw, so that people don't have to make these applications, or, to allow that flexibility. So it would be up essentially council's discretion as to whether they choose to do it through amending the zoning, or whether they choose to do it through a shipping container bylaw. But as it is right now, if the bylaw were to be passed as it is today, yes, people would be required to do a zoning bylaw amendment in order to get the flexibility that they're looking for on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Right, that's what we requested when we went back the second time, but all right, go ahead.
Because in essence, there are two, this is the only one that I've had people approach me about, and there's two clusters of people who would like to be able to be utilizing shipping containers for creative opportunities on limited land availability, and there's people concerned about what that might look like. So I like the idea that we have control over that at the end of the day, and that we're not shutting down the opportunity for people that we have final say on what that ends up looking
Right.
like.
And so Darshan, how Councillor Crapper just summarized your comments, that's where we're landing, correct?
That's correct. I would agree.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, thanks, just so that we're all on the same page. Councillor Crapper.
To your worship, is there any methodology to set standard visuals for a shipping container? I mean, they're all built the same, they're all square box, steel box, but some that you see look basically like a first class storefront, and some look like a shipping container.
So the suggestion's been made before and again tonight, we can do a shipping container bylaw. And that's where that would come in, if that's the route that we decide to go. So for this purpose, it feels that people are satisfied, let's crawl, walk, run, see what comes in, but if you want to go to that specificity, it would be a container bylaw.
I'm just wondering if legally, can you tell somebody what their house should look like? You can issue a building permit based on the plans before you, but what it looks like in the end is a right now for a home anyway, is somebody's personal
That's with their residents.
opinion. So I'm just talking about not the strength of it or where it is, but how it should look. Is there any way to set a standard for that? In an amended bylaw down the road?
So I'll say this much, in terms of, there's certain things that zoning can do and certain things that zoning cannot do. And so things like, setback, building form, heights, massing, that kind of thing can be regulated through zoning. But the things like what type of shingles you use on your roof or what color your bricks are, those are not things that can be regulated through zoning. And so, if it were, just speaking, I guess conceptually here, if there was something that was regulating the aesthetics of the shipping containers themselves, I'm not sure that's something that could be in a zoning bylaw. Whether it could be in a shipping container bylaw, I'm not sure the answer to that question. But in terms of a zoning bylaw, whether you have like a nice shipping container or whether it's a certain color shipping container or a certain design or something like that, that's not something you'd be regulating through the zoning bylaw. What you'd be regulating through the zoning bylaw are, how tall can that shipping container be? What kind of setback can it have from, the property line? Those types of things would be what a zoning bylaw could regulate.
Okay, so that's a can of worms. So if somebody wants to have a shipping container and they want to use it for art purposes and they make it aesthetically pleasing versus somebody who wants to use a shipping container for some other reason. Am I hearing you say that we can't direct what the exterior of the shipping container looks like? But did I get that right?
It's, yeah, in terms of the exterior, like, what does the design look like? That's not something that you would regulate through zoning. In terms of what the use of the shipping container is, that's something you can regulate through zoning. So if somebody uses it for art purposes, sure. But if somebody is,
Sorry, John, we're not talking about what they're using. I just was coming hypothetically. I think the
Right.
concern has been around the table is what do they look like? And we at the very first meeting we had, a couple of members of council had some photographs of customized containers that were customized for the products that they were gonna be selling. And that's where we started. So that's kind of in our head. That's where we started what these might look like. And so I think Councillor Card's point is really important for us to understand that if somebody wants to put a shipping container on a property and it now comes to council, the look of it isn't something that we can assess. Is that correct?
that's correct. The appearance and things like colors and stuff like that, no, that's not something that would be something that, would really be for review. Form and function is something that would be for review, not necessarily, that kind of aesthetic.
Okay, so anything beyond that, we would be looking for a legal opinion. So I'm not gonna, I think I'm gonna pull the conversation shut now from a planning perspective, form and function. If it has to do with aesthetics, are we then started measuring ourselves around the charter, we would get a legal opinion. So we'll leave it there because we don't know, we would need a lawyer's opinion. All right, so coming back to, thanks for that question. That was really turning my head around a bit. Section 4.9 we've discussed as presented by the planners and we're satisfied with it. So can we move on to considering long-term care home? No revision proposed. Everybody fine with that one? Okay. Now the next one is use for hospice care. And which is, so the response is group, if that's termed more of a group home, is permitted in any zone that we already have. So is there any questions about the third one? Okay. Going to the top of the next page for people following on hard copy. The next question had to do with how can the zoning bylaw improve the environment? Anybody have any concerns with the answer given?
No, I would comment that it's helpful to have that those examples of what we have, you can do find in the bylaw.
Good point. Good point. Everybody else okay with that? Should consider permitting trailer park mobile homes in some zones. Anybody have concerns with the answer provided by the planners? Next is, some of I think that's self-explanatory. If the lots on Upper Rideau Lake showing private, but they really have services, and we need to get that fixed. Nobody has any objection to that. Any comments from the CAO on that? Okay. Okay, can we go to RVCA now? All right, RVCA, section 2 definition of water course. They raised that as a concern, but you can see the answer given by our planners. That doesn't require revision to the plan. Everybody okay with that? 3.4, open storage. Open storage provisions should include prohibition of open storage on lands within a floodplain. Everybody okay with the answer given by the planners? 3.21, shoreline area occupancy. This is about how much of a shoreline area can be used for marine pump houses, stairs, and that sort of thing. Everybody all right with the answer given by the planners? Good. Section 3.26.2, water frontage. Concern raised, and the answer from the planner is to propose to revise to include the suggested language. So everybody's okay with that? The suggestions made is what is going to be incorporated. Same with the setbacks, 3.27.6, yard setbacks and encroachments, suggestions made, and planners are proposing to revise it to the suggestions made. Section 5.3.4, boundaries of zones. At this point, the planners are not suggesting any revision. Everybody okay with that? Alrighty, and then 5.7.1, source water protection zone overlay. At this point in time, the planners are not suggesting any revision. Everybody all right with that? Go ahead, Councillor Aragona.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I just have a need for clarification on RVCA specifically pointed this out as being a concern, but the conclusion is that residential properties do not pose a significant risk to groundwater. I need to understand why there's a difference of opinion there.
Yeah, sure. So I think maybe Counselor, it would be helpful for us to kind of explain the context of that comment, where it came from. And so what we had, one of the things that we were really looking to understand from the RVCA when we circulated, or when those comments were circulated to them, was whether the language that we've proposed for the source water protection zone overlay is appropriate, and whether they have any suggestions for that language. And so we received our written agency comments from the RVCA, and in those comments, there was no reference to the source water protection overlay. And so we actually went back to the RVCA and said, we're going through your comments, and one of the things we noticed was that you don't have anything about the source water protection zone overlay, and that was something that we kind of expected we would have comments on, or that we would receive comments on. And so essentially the response that we got from the RVCA was that they don't have concerns necessarily with the way we've worded it. It was Eric Lalonde actually who reached out to us at the RVCA, and he was like, you could add residential to what is screened in within the source water protection zone overlay, what is screened in to be reviewed by the risk management official. You could add that, but he prefaced that, I guess, by saying that there wasn't any concerns with the way you worded it, currently. And so internally, we kind of discussed it as well. And our feeling on it was that, if something like a residential use is, typically unlikely to really pose a groundwater risk, somebody, building a garage or something on their property we don't really anticipate that that's going to have a big effect on groundwater. And that's why now we have to be careful when we say that, because you're using our knowledge as planners, not as source water protection experts. But there's certain types of uses that pose more of a risk that would be appropriate to be screened in. And that's why we kind of included the exclusion of residential, but we kept it the same way it was. The RVCA wasn't super hung up on it, and we ourselves didn't fully think it was required to add residential as one of the uses that would screen it.
Councillor Erdwan.
So, through you, Madam Mayor, so if I understand correctly, then, the way that it's worded, this means that, anyone looking to develop a residential property in that zone would not have to have the plans reviewed by a risk management official. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So if somebody, wants to buy two properties and develop, if a developer decides he's gonna buy multiple properties on that, in that zone, is that excluded as well?
If the developer were doing residential development, yeah, it would not be screened in for review by the risk management official.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that. I don't quite understand why, risk management for, source water in that area wouldn't be reviewed, for a residential property. I'm wondering if we should take another look at that.
So the area is defined, the source water protection area is defined. And in our community, there was very strong work by the office in relation to existing oil tanks. And they all had to come out. There was a period of time. So there is risk mitigation in a residential area in a water protection zone. But I think I heard Darjan say it's a residence. It's you're flushing your toilet. There's nothing that there's no industry. I'm not trying to say what you said, but I heard there's no industry. It's residential and it's an intended use. I don't know what's your challenge to the planners on that issue.
I'm hearing that it's a little bit ambiguous right now from RBCA as to why they said it was not a. Sorry, I'm hearing that it's a little ambiguous to me as to why the conclusion is it's not a significant enough risk to groundwater, whereas the RBCA originally suggested. So I'm still thinking that there is a little ambiguity there that we need to clarify.
And if I heard you right, you had meetings with RVCA in relation to this, and did I hear you say that then they changed their suggestion or their comments?
So it wasn't meetings, Madam Mayor. What happened was actually that we received the written comments and then we sent an email to the individual who commented on the RVCA or from the RVCA. And in that email, we asked them, you didn't tell us anything about the source water protection overlays. Do you have any concerns with it? And they sent us an email back and said, there aren't really any comments on the source water protection overlay. You could potentially change it to residential or add in residential to be screened. So basically in that email, Eric Lalonde from the RVCA had kind of introduced the idea of including residential uses within what gets screened, but did also preface it by saying that they didn't have concerns with the wording of it. But it was an email. We didn't meet with the RVCA to discuss that comment.
Okay, your microphone's kind of doing it's bleeding for us. Steve, could you summarize what he said? Just his mic is bleeding and we're all kind of leaning in to hear that. Does RVCA still have concerns or no?
No, RVCA doesn't have any concerns with the way the provision is written. They were suggesting that if they were to comment, we could include residential uses as requiring risk management review, just as we would for industrial or for commercial use. But typically residential uses do not pose a threat to source water. So it's in our experience anyways, it's pretty typical that we don't include residential in that category. And so if we did include them, that would mean that every development application, whether it was for somebody to build a house, or renovations to their house, would require a risk management official to look at the application. So we're trying to keep things flexible, keep it simple, and manage what level of review is required. And so I think it was just a suggestion from the RVCA, but I don't think they have a concern based on our understanding.
Okay. Councillor Crapper, Councillor Card, and then I'll come back to Councillor Ardona.
Two things. One is, you alluded to, but be interesting to know with clarity what other municipalities do when it comes to residential. And in my mind, the light went on when Councillor Ardona was talking about developments of multi-residential. How could they not have potentially impact on, but do they not, through you, Madam Mayor, reviews at the county level as part of the development application process? If it's covered out somewhere else in a developer's, in the process of coming to a point of having, 50 new homes in a community built, that groundwater, risk to groundwater has been assessed, which I assume somewhere in that process it is, then I have some comfort in that. But if we're saying no, 50 new homes in your community, we're just saying don't have potential risk for groundwater, then I'm less comfortable with that.
So two questions there, team. One, what do other municipalities do?
Yeah.
Was the first question. And then secondly, is this picked up somewhere on the county's assessment of the subdivision plan?
I guess to answer that question in the same order, I can't tell you what all municipalities do, but in my experience, a lot of municipalities do not include residential as a risk to groundwater. It's about the commercial, industrial, and sort of non-residential uses. And that's the approach I've taken on municipalities where I've worked. The second question is, the county wouldn't necessarily be doing a check on that stuff as part of their approval authority for subdivisions. They would leave that to the lower tier municipalities as part of their review, because it is a policy that's included in local official plans and zoning bylaws. The municipalities have the responsibility to implement those documents, and they have a responsibility to implement source water protection through those policies. And so we have included a provision that says if you're doing a residential, you're exempt from having to do a risk management plan, but for anything else than that, other than that, you would be required to.
You'd be required to follow the source water policies.
Right. And the municipality has a risk management official, and that
Right.
individual, whoever that is, I'm not sure in your case, but that individual is responsible for reviewing the proposal to ensure that risk management is being implemented and whether or not any further information is required.
Okay, and so in Westport's case, to Steve or Peter, is that us with Mark, like with the engineer? Is that how that gets done? Whoever, Peter, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, Your Worship, so the risk management is services provided by the RVCA for us. And so regardless of the wording in the zoning bylaw, we still comply with those policies. The Ministry of Environment, RVCA, and Village Staff are all referencing these same policies, and they're all pretty consistent on where residential applies. So I think maybe to dive a little bit with an earlier question on the same where things are reviewed, there's engineering reviews that happen throughout the process. The idea of taking a question that was asked a lot was, what was the impact to current development in the village that was happening in the wellhead protection area?
Yeah.
Was we were going from a higher risk use being agricultural to a lower risk use being residential. So those reviews all happen. What changing this wording would require an additional step and cost for someone doing simple building permit applications and simple, like garages was a good example, but even reference to building permit for some of the building permits we're looking at later would all require an extra step to go through RVCA and added cost when these are low risk activities. So for us, as working with source water here in the village, the idea of somebody renovating their living room or building a garage is not an impact on wild protection at all.
Okay.
And subsequently, someone buying 2 or 3 lots and building a multi-residential unit on that, there's no impact at all to the wild protection area. That we already have the rules around how buildings are serviced. We already have the opportunity to comment how buildings are serviced to protect groundwater, and then anything else is all our general engineering standards, so groundwater recharge and all that. So I think that it was led towards, is this covered elsewhere? And I believe most of council's concern would already be covered elsewhere than the zoning bylaw.
So it sounds like from what Steve and Peter has said, that there is a great deal of rigor already in the processes because of the bylaw, the legislation that has to be followed. Adding it here requires another step in the process, but doesn't increase the risk management because the risk management is already being done. Is that what I'm hearing you guys say?
That's the way I would phrase it.
Yeah, Steve, have I got that right?
I think you've summarized it pretty well.
Okay. Councillor Carr.
I was just gonna say the same thing. My interpretation of what our BCA is saying is that the issue is covered in so many other areas that it's not an issue for our BCA or for a resident. Just zoning itself would preclude a lot of the risk.
Sure.
And then as Peter said, then you have the policy and a lot of other things regarding source water. So I think that we're safe and staying with the status quo there.
Okay. Councillor Riccone, are you okay with all the discussion?
I got the answers I was looking for.
Thank you, sir. Everybody else okay? Good discussion, particularly for the public who may not have had all the information. Thank you, team. Okay, so that's our list. So back to our planners. Anything else that you need from us? I guess the concern was around the first one that we talked about. And we're happy with the status quo. We asked you to change it, we asked you to change it back, and we're remaining there. And we've had some good discussion in regards to source water protection, and we're not requesting any changes there. Anything else that you need from us? And then tell us what the next step is.
So I don't think we necessarily, need anything else right now. We've received the direction from council here today. What our next steps would be, and Steve, please jump in if I misquote it, but what the next steps are is going to be is we're going to implement any of the required changes into this essentially a second draft of the zoning bylaw. And then, following that, we'll also be having a public meeting, which we note in the memo to be July 29th, noting council probably meeting July 28th, but later in July, that's what we're hoping to get a statutory public meeting. And that's where we would present and have that updated draft of the zoning bylaw.
Okay.
The other piece though is that, all the way up until and including the public meeting, members of the public will have an opportunity to comment on the zoning bylaw. And so what we're anticipating is we're still waiting on some comments from the Lake Association. We're still waiting for comments from watercolors, and so from Landark. So we're still waiting on some comments to come in, and those comments could come in and also require some changes to be made to the draft. So more comments to come in, potentially more changes to be made to the bylaw, while with the aim of getting to statutory public meeting at the end of July.
Okay, so statutory meeting is next. And then it comes to council in September.
That's right. The timing is important, as we knew right from the outset here. That you wanted to get a bylaw done sometime in, I think it was August at the latest, right? And so for us to have a public meeting, we thought, based on the schedule we're on right now, we could accommodate a end of July date. That would be the public meeting date. And then council is at any point after that public meeting is in a position where they can make a decision. We are anticipating some comments from potentially those that didn't come out to the open house. or maybe came out and now have further questions, or we have. The point is that there's still an opportunity for people to comment right up until council makes a decision. They could make comments the day of the decision for that matter. But I think we need to keep moving along. So we're proposing a public meeting date at the end of July. And we deal with comments, and then soon after that date, if council's comfortable, we can present a draft, a third draft for council's adoption.
Okay, so there should be no criticism by anybody that they don't get their chance to have their comments. There's lots of opportunities. Very good. Thank you. Anybody, anything else before we let the planners go? You're good? All right. Thank you, team. We appreciate it. Good luck on July 29th.
Thank you, and we'll work
Thank you.
with your CAO, Kimberly, to make sure that we have that date squared away and prepare the documents to advertise that public meeting date. So
Good. Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
Okay, looking forward to it. It's exciting.
you.
Kind of coming to the end of a long road here.
getting
Very
there.
good.
All right.
Thank you, team.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. So the motion is moved by Councillor Crapper, seconded by Councillor Card, that council received the report entitled Planning Zoning Bylaw Review, Open House Feedback Comments for Information. Any other comments? I'll call the question. Carried. I like that format. And probably because it's fairly straightforward, we didn't have 15 pages.
I think people will be impressed with the input from
Yeah.
conservation authority, given the pressures that they're under
Yeah.
and the revisions to their mandate.
Yeah.
There's proof right there
Yeah.
and the value to us.
Yeah, for sure. Good point. Okay, let's move on to 9.2, which is going back to the conversation about the BYOB addendum. And it is moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper. The council received the report entitled Administration Amendment to Liquor License Act BYO Addendum. And the Council of the Corporation of Village of Westport prohibit the permitting of bring your own events within its jurisdiction. Okay, Councillor Crapper, Card, and Cardy.
Yeah, no, I'm fully supported. I think looking at the thread that was included in some of the documentation, obviously it's a route that we are entitled to take.
Yeah.
I don't see any downsides to that.
Good. Thank you, sir. Councillor Card?
Yeah, I agree too. It's, just looking at it the way it stands right now, it's just a can of worms, putting a lot of onus on the village to designate the event, to designate an area to confine people. And, based on what I read, report from CAO and staff is that, a lot of municipalities feel the same, and they're just gonna sit on it until they have a better understanding.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been able to say it as eloquently as you, but sit on it until you see how it falls out. Councillor Cardy.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just wondering, I'm thinking in hypotheticals, let's say an organization comes and they wanna hold something at Lockwood. At that point, and they wanna serve alcohol, would they get a special events permit then on their own? I'm just wondering how that would work if someone's wondering if they could still hold something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through you, Madam Mayor. So those permits are always available to event holders. They have to apply, they have to meet certain criteria through AGCO. But it just wouldn't be to bring your own legislation, that it would be under.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that question, because that helps people who are watching thinking you can never have a drink in Westport, where that may not be the case. You're okay with this, Councillor?
Mhm.
Okay, and I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Perfect. 9.3 is the website redesign project. And I'll put the motion on the table and I'll ask the CAO to speak to it. It's moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona, that council received the report entitled Administration Website Redesign Project Addendum, and the council approved staff's recommendation to release an RFP for the village website redesign project. I think it's probably self-explanatory, but did you want to add anything more? Or?
Sure, thank you through you, Madam Mayor. It is contained within the report. However, between the last committee whole meeting and this meeting and discussions with the particular supplier who I originally recommended, there have been some, I would say, material changes. So that's why my recommendation is changing from using this particular supplier to releasing an RFP.
Very good. Councillor Aragona.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So, GovStack is no longer part of LAS, and the RFP would be going out to, general suppliers. Is GovStack, would GovStack still be available to, respond to the RFP, or are they, because they're not part of LAS, they can't do that?
So they could respond.
Yeah.
They could put their proposal in. The idea with LAS is, it allows single sourcing because they've already done the procurement process. So that kind of takes them out of Kim would have to be making a request for single sourcing, and she's just not comfortable with that without, some additional information.
Okay, I would like to make another point, if I may. In going out for the RFP, I think it would save us a lot of time if we are very specific in what we're asking for. And one of the things that was lacking in the GovStack proposal that came back was a discussion of architecture and navigation structure. They were talking about migrating an existing site to a new platform. What we're looking for is a new architecture, a new navigation structure, and we're also looking for support with content adaptation and content development before we get to a visual design. So I just want to make that point. If we are going to be structuring an RFP, that's part of the RFP structure.
Sounds fair. And I mean, I'm confident that the CAO is gonna probably ask for your input, because you're the person who does this for a living. So before it, we are always careful that we keep our counselor hats on and our personal hats on, but we'll work that out, don't worry. All right?
Mhm.
All right. Anybody else? Call the question, then all in favor? Perfect, thank you, that's carried. 9.4 is the amendment to model home agreement, phase 3 for Landark. It's moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona. The council receives a report entitled. Back that up, my apologies. Moved by Councillor Aragona, seconded by Councillor Cardy. The council received the report entitled Administration Amendment to Model Home Agreement Phase 3 Landark. And the council approved a bylaw to amend the pre-servicing agreement for phase 3 of Watercolor Westport, specifically Schedule J, to allow for a maximum of 12 model homes to be constructed prior to registration of the plan of subdivision. Anybody have any concerns? Councillor Cardy.
Just a question through you, Madam Mayor. It says, there will be some multi-residential attainable units. I'm wondering, in any of these model units, are any of those going to be multi-home or attainable units?
So are any of the additional 2 model homes
Yes.
going to be a multi-unit?
That's right.
That's the question.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. As I understand it, yes, they are.
Okay.
Good. Councillor Craft.
First, why didn't this come to us at Cal? Why are we making a decision about it at council, especially given your description at the start about how the process works?
Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Actually, that is a timing issue on behalf of the applicant Landark. They were to get me the information. They didn't get it to me in time for the committee of the whole meeting. And now we are at, I would say, the final stages of satisfying all the comments in terms of a final plan of subdivision, but they're just not there yet, and they're running out of their model home applications. I believe they're at 9 right now, so they just want to bridge the gap and ensure that they have the extra 2 additional buffer homes if they need that movement.
Okay, under analysis, I'm confused as to the first paragraph. To allow Landark to finish fulfilling the draft conditional, so that's what you just said. And built in units, they've requested provision be amended to 10 units. Okay, so that is what you just summarized, right? That statement?
That's right.
Okay, so I guess I understand that a little bit better now, vaguely. But at the end of the day, they are asking for 2 additional model homes to be constructed.
That's correct.
And we discussed before, for anybody listening, the constraints on model homes, that they're not connected, etc. So there's no risk, except that the buildings are there, and there's an investment in the buildings, but they are not part of our infrastructure in the
They're
community.
not connected to water,
Yeah.
there's water. Correct. So,
Yeah,
I mean, it's what you do. It's what you do. I mean, it's an ideal world we live in where we bring things to committee of the whole, and I'm pretty strict on that. This isn't a dissimilar request from what we've had over the years. And we're also going into July, you know, when they're trying to get things built. So when the CAO asked if it could come on this, I said, you know, with a good briefing note, but in the notion of doing what we can to support them. As you say, they're not sold, they're not connected. It seemed like a small gesture on our part. Hopefully you all agree with me that it's something that we could do for them at this point in time. But thank you for raising the piece about, we skipped committee of the whole on this topic. Anybody, anything else? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. All right, building permit update, it's just for information. It's moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona. The council received the report entitled Administration Building Permit Update Q1 2026 for information purposes. Anybody got a question for the CAO?
Just quickly, does the volume matter to us financially? So does it matter how many building permits to the budget? That's all recovered through the fees, is it? That are paid for the building? Okay.
You contract with Rita Lakes to do it, so
Yeah.
it doesn't pass through us at all.
Yeah.
But it could. Just throwing that out there, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole tonight. Sorry, I got looks from around the room, but we could.
The reason that I ask is that 80% plus of those building permits are in the new development.
Yeah.
So if there's a cost to us because building permits that a developer is incurring, then I think we need to talk about that.
It's no cost us. All right. Everybody fine? All right, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Perfect. Recreation, oh my gosh, those guys are just rocking. 9.6, summer 2026 programming overview. It's moved by Councillor Aragona, seconded by Councillor Cardy. The council received the report entitled Recreation Summer 2026 Programming Overview for information purposes. Just, you want to go ahead, like, because you guys sat there and talked about what we needed in a recreation department manager, and we're kind of getting blown out of the water here with all the things that are
That we
happening.
did, your worship. We had some pretty specific wishes and requests and goals to be set for the arena, and I'm pleased to say that Mr. Chismore has he's climbed pretty much to the top of that list with even some unique things that we hadn't even thought of. We're back to why don't we let Mr. Chismore tell us about what's going on?
Okay, but summarize, please, Chris. A little direction.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was my mandate when I was hired, was to increase programming at the arena specifically. It is our largest facility, so we've been slowly trying new things over these last number of years. Some have been successful, others not so much, but while we continue on with the programs that we think have gone well, for example, pickleball is now in year 3. We had some success last year with movies in the rink, so we continued that into this year as well. While we try to keep those things going, we also want to try new things. So this summer is kind of the summer of the dance party. So we've tried one just this past Friday night with primary school families, and that went probably better than we hoped. And we're gonna have a teen dance coming up at the end of the school year on the 26th of June, followed by an adult dance in July. So again, these are things we have not tried before. And I think it's good. It's good to get people into the facility to see what it can look like and feel like in the off season. I think that's important because I think when they do come in, perhaps they're pleasantly surprised at what the ambiance and the feeling looks like. So we're just gonna keep trying all these things and then try to, through that experience, build a solid recreational plan of a whole series of different types of events that would take us through the entire kind of spring, summer season. So we're still in trial phase, but we're seeing what's worked and we're putting that all together and hoping to come up with a even more comprehensive calendar of events.
So you kind of hit a point there for me that, you know, the mental Rolodex has to kick in from time to time. Where are we with our recreation master plan? Because there'll be, you know, infrastructure opportunities coming forward. And if we're the same boat that we were last year and the year before, then, you know, we don't stand a chance of getting the grant. So I didn't mean to put you on the spot, maybe Chris, maybe it's for the CAO, but have we started, bring us up to speed on that, please.
Sure, thank you through you, Madam Mayor, and it's slated to come July 14th with ratification the 28th. And it's slated to be recommended for sole source.
Oh, okay. Ask and you get a great answer.
I'm glad you asked, because I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Okay, 'cause it's just so important.
Sorry, can I just say one more thing? Sorry,
Absolutely.
the reason it didn't make this meeting is because I needed some points clarified before I could finish the briefing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So by the end of July, it might be out the door for, sole source.
Yeah.
So it might be beginning. Very good. Councillor Carr, you wanted to,
Just something that Mr. Chismore didn't mention is that,
that he was dancing with people on Friday night? That's what I heard.
that the people that have been coming and trying the upstairs and everything, they're now coming back, they're repeat customers and they're bringing other people with them, so nobody's, to my knowledge, has tried it and said, hey, I don't like this. Everybody that comes likes what they see, and I know that there's a couple of people that have even expanded their use. They started it with one class and now they're doing like 3 classes,
Super.
and totally attributable to Mr. Chismore's efforts as to recruiting as opposed to waiting for the orders to come in. He's chasing people for, to book the arena, so doing a great job.
Somebody told me on the street the other day about 2026-7 for the arena, and they were talking about the increase in bookings already from outside the area. So, all right, well done, well done. When's the teenage party?
So it's
The t-
Friday, June 26th.
Okay.
Maybe we should all go to the adult one.
Yeah.
I'd love a farewell dance with you.
I think I'm working the bar. I think I put my hand up for that.
Yes, you did.
I'll call the question. Congrats to Mr. Chismore and thank you for the update. All right, so now we just got 2 bylaws on things that we've just discussed. The first is in regards to the additional 2 model homes, moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona, that bylaw 2026-18 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2025-26 being a bylaw to enter into a pre-servicing agreement with Landark Homes for phase 3 watercolor Westport subdivision be read a first, second, and third time, and finally pass this 15th day of June 2026. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. And 10.2 is our financial consultant. It's moved by Councillor Aragona, seconded by Councillor Cardy, that bylaw 2026-19 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Carroll Fuller Corporation for the provision of financial services be read a first, second, and third time, and finally pass this 15th day of June 2026. Any comments?
I think it would be helpful to the public if you maybe just give a brief overview of what we're talking about here, because I think that discussion was
Okay.
in camera.
Yeah. So the village took a decision several months ago that recruiting a treasurer for the village is just a bridge too far for far too many people. They are specialists, and the job here requires selling garbage tags at the counter and answering questions. So we have instead we've had a contract with an individual. Their work that they were hired to do is finishing, and so the high level work, the work with the audit, the work with the government is what this contract is for. So we have a financial assistant. Nobody's fitting in the treasurer position because it is a legal requirement to have a treasurer. Our CAO is CAO/treasurer. For purposes of the legislation, she has the oversight here in the building, so fulfills that mandate. But for us to make sure the specialized services are being done, that's what this contract is about. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, any notices of motion? Any announcements? They've got things happening. I'll start over here and then go to Councillor Kraft.
A couple, Boda's having their annual Bob Scott Walk this coming Friday evening. And we'd invite everybody to get their pledge sheet out, fill it up, and come join us for some camaraderie, a walk, and maybe a hot dog or hamburger or something like that, and a drink. And second, I'd just like to say that I kind of participated in the foul event on the weekend and was amazed at the success of it. I thought I'd see like 10 or 15 people come through the Serenity Garden. To my, just a quick count, there's over 100. So, and a lot of great comments about the Serenity Garden and the whole operation, the way it was organized and the people that participated. So just wanted to say they did a great job, and I know it was a lot of work for them, so.
Yeah, good. We're the Friends of the Westport Library. Could I just go back to the Bob Scott? Of course, Bob Scott, we lost him a couple of years ago. He was the driving force between the formation of the Friends of the Arena
And hockey in general.
14 years ago. Yes, hockey, he's just been a big part of the hockey world in the village. And so this walkathon does several things. It helps us remember and pay homage to such a terrific person who was a friend to so many of us. But it's also an opportunity to get together with other community members and raise some money for the Friends of the Arena. So the pledge sheets, if they want one in advance, are on the FODA Facebook page.
There,
Okay, Facebook page. You could get one on site if you just have a cash donation. You'll fill one out and you'll get receipted for it from FODA. They are a charity. There's a barbecue. And a lot of fun people will be there. The time to report was when?
5:30.
5:30. Okay, so 5:30. And Amy, Councillor Cardy, there are school kids coming as well. Like, can you shed a little light on that?
All the local schools have pledge forms in the office, and children, it's been promoted through their school websites and Facebook pages. So
Oh, good. And so if we go back in time to remember that FODA started because for a variety of reasons, but their reason was to raise money to help with much needed renovations and repairs at the arena that the tax base just doesn't support. We thank them heartily. Part of the conversation we just had from Councillor Card was the work that Mr. Chismore has done upstairs in the WTC Center. But the funding for that predominantly came from Friends of the Arena. So if you can come out on Friday night and help raise money, not one single, there's no admin fee attached to that charity. It's 100% goes to what it's intended for. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that people don't really realize at first glance just what FODA has contributed over the past 10 years. We did a quick summary and it's if you had to buy the services that have been provided and the materials, it'd be over $1 million. So it's just hard for people to see that when they look at it. But 2 years ago, one summer ago, Mr. Chismore had the whole interior of the arena painted, just brightened it up. I mean, it's a completely different looking place, got rid of the gloomy yellow and it's a nice bright white and boards are scrubbed and it's just a pleasant place to be now.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Coulter.
I've got a couple things. First, this is the week the bank is closing. And I'm wondering, we're asked all the time, all of us are, but I know there was some conversations that you have had, that our CAO has had with alternate possibilities. Is there anything for the public on anything that you have heard, or there's a lot of worry, of course? I don't know if it was today that it closed, or is it tomorrow? It's tomorrow, yeah.
So I can share with you that I finally got ugly to get a response from the board. And I received that about 3 weeks ago. And it was, sorry for your loss.
Credit union options, thing like that?
Kim followed up on the credit union, that didn't work out.
Okay.
We begged for a bank machine, and particularly thinking of the people in the village who count on social assistance to pay the fee that you have to pay to get the money out of the machine. We're glad Circle K has one, but particularly with the people that's a real hit for. When I met with the BMO people, I asked if they could look at the service charges for those people. They said that they would look into it, but I'm just sad to say that with all that we did with the community, with all the meetings we had, with all the correspondence that we sent, with all the letters that members of the public added, we got nowhere, got nowhere.
I think it's helpful to just have that kind of
Yeah.
context around its important watershed, and hopefully something will emerge that's.
Thanks, Maria.
On a brighter note, we had a Westport meeting last week. That really was our kickoff. And so Jeremy Barr is now our overall coordinator. And there's a few of us right now just working with him, but there will be a broadening of our volunteer base and finding a person to sort of coordinate the volunteers. We've had a couple of meetings with Westport Art Council, and although it's not finalized, it looks very likely that we'll partner with them around insurance. And that are, you know, that it will look like the daytime part of our event last year. However, our goal will be to try and have all acts on streets that are closed, and I've talked to the CAO about what that process looks like. And I think we can get there. The next step will be inviting interest from Porsche owners to that are, at first we might say, well, these are the streets we're definitely closing, but if there were 5 porches on Mill Street and real interest, or George, or any of the streets that perhaps aren't at first glance part of a closure, well, then we would say, well, no worries, we can't close that street too.
Right.
But the closing of the streets is what brings comfort to the insurer and makes it just easier all the way around. So that's our goal. That's probably what it'll look like. We have, you know, I don't make the decisions on that, and it's just at its infancy, but it's really looking positive, and I think people will be excited to see it happen again.
So it's not for you because you've got a vested interest in this. The rest of council wants to make sure those roads are closed, right? Like, that was part of last year's thing. So I'm really happy to hear what you're saying, but not just the insurers, it's the corporation. Doesn't want cars and people in the same area. So that's good news. That's good news. I understand St. Paul's is having their barbecue that day and yard sale as well, but for Westport, the barbecue and the breakfast was really, really popular. It's a place they could get some food downtown. So that's good news.
Yeah,
Congratulations. Good, great news. Did I see hands over here, Councilor Kern?
Oh, just get your flags and everything ready for Canada Day, big day in that area. So everything starts at 8 AM all the way through. There's events, no lulls this year, just kind of seamless throughout the day. At the beach, the Legion, there's things for everyone of all ages. And we'll do our Senior of the Year and Single Canada on the Spring Bridge again. And yeah, so it'll be exciting. That's Wednesday, obviously, July 1st.
Nice. Thank you for all your work on that. It's a great event. It's a great day. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
I have no
You only got.
I have no announcement. Yeah.
Okay, questions from the public? Questions from Suzanne?
Just wanted to clarify, the public statutory meeting that Steve Pence referred to, I think that we were talking 2 dates in the,
It'll come out in
so just July, end of July?
28th or 29th. Kim's gonna have to confirm the
Okay.
date and the venue and everything.
Okay, perfect. We'll just go with it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I think we're gonna go into close for a very brief moment. It's moved by Councillor Hardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona. The council proceed into closed session as permitted on the Municipal Act to consider advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Thanks, Suzanne. All in favor? Carried. Perfect. I guess we could, we'll pretend the door is open. Because we're back online, right?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Welcome back, everybody. We moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona, that council met in closed session to discuss matters pertaining to advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and council took no action beyond receiving information from staff. All in favor? Carried. Confirmatory bylaw moved by Councillor Aragona, seconded by Councillor Cardy, that bylaw 2026-20, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings at its meetings held on June 2nd and June 15th, 2026, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passes 15th day of June 2026. All in favor? Carried. And we are adjourned. We meet again on
July 14th.
July 14th at 5 p.m. Moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona, that this meeting of the Village of Westport be adjourned at 6:30.